Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today created something that reflects the outsider, the misfit, the kid who never quite fit in. Please welcome the man who created a tribute to the unapologetic spirit of punk rock, channeled through the whimsical fan lens of pop culture. Please welcome the failed Imagineer, Christopher Michon. What's going on, man? How you doing today?
I'm good. I just took a sip of
Took a
coffee
big
and trying very hard not to cough while you're doing the intro.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I appreciate thank you so much for having a lunch break with me. Usually my first question always is, what's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's like a difference between like what's my go-to and what's my favorite,
Yeah, and you can give me
right?
both.
All right. Like I like my go-to is like just straight up peanut butter and jelly because it's so easy to
Yeah.
make and like it hits all the things. I love peanut butter, like it's super good. But like my favorite sandwich is probably a turkey club.
Okay.
Um, it's like I have like this like baseline. Like if people can do like the classics correct, then you know like they're a good restaurant, you know? So like if you go to like a diner or like an ice cream place and like their vanilla ice cream stinks, you're like this place is not going to be good. If they can't do vanilla right, like it's not going to be good. So like Turkey Club, it's like I go to a diner, I get a cup of coffee and I get a Turkey Club because I'm an 80-year-old man and that's like my favorite thing to do and that's like my go-to sandwich.
Your turkey club. I'm going to ask the question because the last turkey club I had did not have this, and I was already like called off. So I understand your litmus test. 3 slices of bread. It's like a 3
Yes.
tier.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
to be 3.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I went to a place and I asked the owner what I should get, and he said the turkey club. That's solid. And then when I got it and I ate it, I was like, I looked and I was like, well, where's the 3rd slice? Like, it's just a turkey sandwich then.
That's a turkey sandwich, yeah.
Like, what did you do to me, dude? Yeah. So no, I totally get that. I have that same thing. I have certain litmus tests when I go to certain places. If you can't hit certain spots, and I will share with my daughter about the vanilla ice cream because she loves a good vanilla, and it is the base of so many good ice cream
Yeah,
flavors. Like if you can't do
yeah,
vanilla, you're right. Makes total sense.
yeah.
Okay, so tell people, because obviously I gave an intro and it's part of like your bio that you've used. But tell people what and how the failed Imagineer, like what is it if they've never heard of it. Give kind of a little bit of an origin story on what it is.
All right, here we go. I've always really been into like drawing and design. Like I'm a professional designer in my like regular life. This is all free time and extra time. So designing and doing things like that has always been fun for me, whether I'm working or just doing it for myself. Um, and like I've always sort of really been into sort of opposing things as it feels, right? So like I've always been into Disney and there was a very big long break where I just didn't really do it. And my wife was actually the one that's always like, let's go to Disney, let's go there. So like we had moved to Seattle in 2017, like January 1st, 2017, we moved to Seattle. And being so close to California, she's like, let's just go to Disneyland. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And as I went there, I was just like, oh, wow, the vibes at Disneyland are just so different than the vibes at Disney World, which is where I'd only been before. It's like a lot of California natives, so it's a lot more people that sort of look and dress like I do. You know, I was shocked to see so many like tattooed people at the parks. Um, and I was just like, oh, cool. Like, it's okay to like Disney and be an adult. And like, I think 2017, I'm not sure like the Disney adult thing was around
Yeah,
then, but I also think it's kind of silly because it's
it
like
is.
just like what you like and don't worry about it. So that's where my sort of thing goes. But also being in Seattle, like I had a new city, a new job. I was going to the tattoo parlor probably way more than I should have because it was around the corner, and I became very good friends with the tattoo artist,
That
Dylan. He
does
was
become
amazing.
trouble, by the way.
Yeah, so I would just walk down, and he was amazing, and he'd just be like, "I got time," and I'd be like, "Cool," and we'd like bang out 3 tattoos on a Friday night while the kids were sleeping, and but because of that, like I got really interested into like the style of tattoos and traditional tattoo and the sort of simplicity of it. So I started sort of drawing in that style, and I just started taking cartoons, which I really liked, and just sort of mashing them up with the tattoo style. Uh, it was just something that was really interesting to me. I started with like Felix the Cat. I actually found the zine yesterday that I first started with. And I kind of forgot that I had done this. And like if you go way back on my Instagram, you can kind of see the progression. And I kind of just try something for a while, and if it works, it works, and then I stop and I do something else. So I started doing like Felix the Cat, and then it was just like, oh, I it's okay to draw Disney stuff, and because like if you go back and look at a lot of the very old traditional tattoo flash, they use cartoon characters. It's like Popeye, Mickey Mouse, things like that, Betty Boop. So I just loved that whole like raw, rough old tattooed guy that also has like a Mickey Mouse tattoo.
Yeah.
Like you see those guys. They're just like you're not going to talk to that guy. He looks scary, but also he has like a green Mickey tattoo on his arm, and you're just like, that's cool. So I love that. So that's kind of where it came from. The whole name Failed Imagineer, like in true punk rock spirit, it came from a song. There's this band Propagandhi, and they
Yep.
have a song called Failed Imagineer. A lot of people don't know that, but I'm just like, what's more punk rock than like taking a name that you found and using it for something else, right? So many record labels and bands even take songs titles from other bands that they like. So I heard that song, and it just like the imagery just popped into my head. Like I think in pictures all the time, and it just the imagery popped in my head. And I was just like, that's it. That makes sense, and it's all been sort of history from there.
You've been doing that since 2020, is that correct? The Failed Imagineer, kind of
Yeah,
going into that realm?
that's when I like. I think that's when
Yeah.
no, I don't know. I think you probably found it better than I did. I changed my username over to that. I think around that time.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
and I think you did like you switched over on your Facebook. It was like a personal one and then like another one because you've obviously been doing art and doing projects for a
right,
while that
right,
way.
yeah.
um which is great. Before, so we'll hit I want to hit on a few things based on what you said. One, obviously, if you watch some of the reels and stuff like that, you're going to see his logo, and you'll probably see his logo on the cover art of the podcast when you see it. Can you tell me where, like, what inspired it? Obviously, I know there's a Mickey aspect to it, but I'm just kind of curious, like, was there a certain character or anything that inspired the logo?
No, so in true like reusing things that I've done in the past,
Yeah.
I I drew a skull like so. Hey, more story time. I graduated college in 2003. Yeah, that was a long time ago. And when I got out of college, I went to college for graphic design. I got a job at a publisher. I thought I was awesome at graphic design. I was not. But like this was around when like Twitter and Dribble was starting to spin
Yeah.
up, so there was like a lot more of a community happening with design. And I was just like, oh, like design is so much more than just like laying out things and whatever. It's like also like illustrating and doing that. So like I also realized I could start making things for myself, like pins and buttons and stickers and stuff that I've always liked. So I was just like, cool, I can do this. So I made a skull, and it was just a half circle. It's basically this without I'm covering
Without
up
the
the ears. It's
ears.
basically
Yeah.
that. I made that a really long time ago. And then like fast forward 5 years, Jared Mur I'm gonna mess up his last name. Murayama, he's a
Oh
pretty
yeah. He's
he's a
a
great artist. He
Yep.
does the Quickie Mickey challenge.
And he does a lot of great Disney art. I
Yeah,
always
he
love seeing
does
his stuff.
great art, and he did the Quickie Mickey challenge, and I was just like, oh, let me just mash up a skull and Mickey. And I did like three or four different versions. And then uh, I just wanted to have like a logo for this at some point, and I just went back and I found it and I just tweaked it a little bit, and I was like, it worked.
I love it.
Generally, I hate things that I make. Like I usually make something and then let it out there, and then I hate it like the next day. But like I feel like I've been pretty happy with this, and it has some staying power. So I was
No,
excited.
that's awesome. I love it because, so basically, I can, by the way, I could see. like Sid from Toy
Oh,
Story,
right, right,
totally
right.
wearing something like that shirt, like a shirt like that
Yeah,
at a Disney park. I could totally see like you should totally do like some kind of version of that, like he's walking through the parks or whatever, wearing one of those. It'd be pretty awesome to
yeah,
see that. Um, and the other thing that you mentioned, since you mentioned tattoos, and I've seen this, um, can you talk a little bit about, because you've had quite a few people put some of your art on themselves. Can you talk about that feeling of like of that aspect of seeing of like, what that must be like for an artist? Because like my tattoo artist, I don't have many tattoos. I only have like 3 tattoos. If I was best friends with a tattoo artist, it would be trouble. I'd have probably all sandwich stuff. But I do have like a Biggie Bread tattoo, and one of the things when I did my very first tattoo was a very significant meaning for it. And my tattoo artist, what I loved about him was he was like, "Listen," he goes, "You are putting my art on you, like you're a walking billboard." Um, of like my art, and basically I'm very proud to tell people like, hey, this is who my tattoo artist is, and this and that, and like Alfredo, great job on my tattoo. But I wanted to see like what it must be for you as an artist doing so, since you release so much art, and then seeing people like come back probably and be like, hey Christopher, look at this, I got your art, I got your I got this, or maybe reach out to you and be like, hey, I want to get it, I'm getting a tattoo of this because I love it so much.
yeah. I mean, it's just amazing because to make something and have it just resonate with people is really all you want, right? Like, and to have it resonate so much with one person that they want to put it on their skin for the rest of their life is just, it's humbling and amazing. And the fact that I'm just sort of doing this for fun, um, just really makes it worth it, right? It's like, it's awesome. Like, I don't think I'd ever, everyone always asks me, like, oh, did you design all your tattoos? Absolutely not. Like, I don't think I'd ever put something on myself that I drew because I would just hate it and overanalyze it probably. But like, the fact that other people want to do it, I'm just excited. Like, people will be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this." I'm like, "Here, let me send you the file." So like your artist doesn't have to guess, you know. And I've had people ask to like uh for me to like commission a drawing to draw it for them and stuff, and that's just, it's awesome. It's really great.
That's awesome, man. I think that must, I could only imagine seeing that. I mean, I've had people that they've told me like, hey, you've inspired me to get a sandwich tattoo or things like that, and that obviously to me is like means the world to me because it's obviously part of my brand. All right, so let's talk a little Disney. One, and I know some of these answers, but I kind of want people to be able to get to know you a little better.
Sure.
So I want to know your favorite. I'm going to give me your three. These are like favorite Disney movie, character, and ride.
Oh God, this is so hard because they just change all the time, you know? So like my favorite classic animated Disney movie is Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood. Like, I love the songs, I love the style. I just really love Robin Hood. Prince John is so weird, you know. Robin Hood as a character is great. Little John, the rooster singing the songs, like it's great. I love that movie. Um, More recently, like, I really love Coco from Pixar. Like, that
Yeah.
movie is phenomenal. I'll watch that all the time. All right, and then character. So, like, if you can't tell, big Roger Rabbit fan. I don't know if people are watching or not, but this is maybe a quarter of my Roger Rabbit collection. I have a lot of Roger Rabbit stuff. I love Roger Rabbit. It was my favorite movie as a kid. Again, I sort of fell off and forgot about it for a while, and then people reminded me, and I watched it again. I was like, oh man, that movie just holds up. I love Roger Rabbit. So I love that there's still some slight nods to it at the park. You know, Judge Doom being at the Not So Scary
Mm-hmm.
in California, and sometimes they'll put out some new pins and stuff like that. So love Roger Rabbit. Like, my favorite classic character is Oswald. I love Oswald.
Yep.
And I love the history behind Oswald. Uh, you know, how that was the original character, and then he got taken away from Walt, and because Oswald got taken away, he created Mickey instead, and that's where it all started. which is amazing. And then they traded ESPN for Oswald.
Yes, that was like one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. I think it was like Al Michaels or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
two
yeah, it
broadcasters
was like
and
broadcasters for the rights. It was like the weirdest thing. Weirdest thing. I will say so. So my best one of my best friends is an Imagineer,
oh nice.
and when I went, he lived in California for a bit. He's currently in Japan working on some Disney projects. And when he lived in California and we went to visit him, all I told him was, I can't wait to see Oswald. He is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
And I know Oswald would appear at the parks like once or whatever in the morning or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to meet Oswald. I'm going to take a picture with Oswald. Oswald's my guy.
yeah.
And he being jokester, he was like, Oswald doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. There is no Oswald. And then the worst part was, and I was like, dude, he does. And then like he would pull this like, no, he doesn't exist. You're just making crap up. And so then the day I went, there was no Oswald. So then I
Ah,
literally said to him, I said, dude, if you pulled any freaking rank or anything in that freaking park for me not to see Oswald the one time I'm at Disneyland, I
yeah,
am going to be so upset with you. And he is just like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. He doesn't exist. So I never got to meet him, but he is one of my favorites, even though I don't know why he's one of my favorites, maybe because he is the OG. And I just think
yeah.
it's so great about him because like you don't, all there is like shorts. They didn't really do anything. I think they've done like they did like one of the newer versions with like the new Mickey version with him and stuff like that. So yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And favorite ride. What about favorite ride?
Oh, that I it constantly changes. Big fan of like some of the fun rides. It depends on the park. It depends on where I am and what I'm feeling like. Um, like big fan of the People Mover. Like not really a ride, but like
It's my
love the
daughter's
People
favorite ride.
Mover. Love the People Mover. Love the idea. Like I wish I'd gotten to ride it in Disneyland. Like my pal Mariana made a button that's like dreaming for the day they bring the People Mover back to Disneyland. And it's like that would be great. Like really into that. Incredicoaster in California is so much fun. I never went on it before, and then my pal Snow made me go on it, and it was a blast. We rode it during World of Color, which was awesome. So like we got to like see the sounds and the things, and it was dark, and that was really fun. You know, Cosmic Rewind's insane at Epcot. It's
Yep.
so fun. I feel like it scrambles my brain, but I also like the classics. Like I love Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I just answered it with like 8 rides,
No,
but
that's
that's
fine.
okay.
That's fine. I just that's why I mean, it's kind of hard if someone were to say. It just depends on your mood and what it is and nostalgia and
Mm,
all those things. So yeah, so no, I totally get that. The For me, one of the things that I find very interesting, at least, and I know there's like others, like, so I have a few Disney type questions on this. And obviously one is, and I kind of want to know about if your appreciation right now, especially since I know that Disney basically is now leaning to get a little more punk, and they're going to be releasing, for, even though you've been doing it for years, they're going to be doing some kind of version of like a pop punk album,
yep,
of their Disney songs, even though I know others have done it. And because I do follow, I am obviously living in Orlando. I did have for many years, I had season passes. So I love Disney. I love the idea of it, everything that comes from the small details. So I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts on some of that when like you see Disney kind of, something that you kind of are part of a culture that's created, and now they're kind of leaning in and kind of saying, yeah, well, we like this idea. Let's also lean into it and grab some. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah. I think it's I feel like I'm so far over here, and like the Venn diagram of the people that like understand or like get the weird references that I put in um is so small. Like I feel like they're never gonna do like a Rollins band Mickey Mouse mashup like I did. Like the number of people that I hit on that one was like I don't know, less than 10, but like so stoked that like 10 people got it, loved it, and enjoyed it. And like that's cool with me. Um, I think the album's great. Like I listened to it the other day. I honestly don't even know like 75% of the bands. I'd never heard of them before. So I was just like, oh, cool, new bands. Like obviously Newfound Glory. Those guys are great. Those guys are big Disney fans too.
Yeah.
But like I was like, great, good. I'm excited, like to go for it, right? I think as long as they do it okay, right? Because I feel like a lot of times they don't go full into something. They just kind of
Skim it.
brush past it, and I'm just like, if you're gonna do it, just do it. But
Yeah.
I feel like they'll probably do that, and that'll be it. I mean, they have the bands play at the park, right? They had like Yellow Card and Simple Plan play at
Yeah.
Epcot, I guess. So that's cool. Like, go for it, right? Like, I, yeah, it doesn't bother me one bit.
What and I don't know anything about, I really kind of don't know much about the Disney culture. I mean, obviously I've tried to dip my foot in with my brand on doing some Disney product, like Disney-esque products, things that I would appreciate that fit with my brand. But I'm kind of curious, because I know you've worked with some brands, and I also know that, obviously you do Disney type stuff. But I'm kind of curious how that whole community is when you have, because there is an inundation of folks that are creating Disney inspired products,
Yes.
and I'm kind of curious what kind of community it is, and like, and what, and kind of how it's done, and like, and if there's certain levels, because I feel like in some degree it's kind of almost like a foodie community, where it's like everyone, it's kind of, it can be kind of competitive, everyone's kind of competing for, obviously for the likes and the buck and all that stuff.
Mm,
So I'm just kind of curious, like, I since I you're my first Disney type person that I've had, that I kind of dips their foot or does stuff that's in in that world. I'm just kind of curious on like how, what you see or what your perspective is, because you're dealing with, and it's like, competition, imitation, things like that.
yeah, that's a good question. Um, and like, I think it's funny because like obviously so much of my life and so much of my art and stuff is related to like Disney specific, and even in the intro you said pop culture, and I try to always sort of steer it back to like general because I don't necessarily want to be pigeonholed, even though if you look, everything is freaking Disney related. So like, it's just kind of like what is inspiring me at the moment. So and that's really it. Like, oh, I see something, I'm like, that's it, that's cool, or like inspired by like an old button I found at the flea market, or inspired by whatever. So like, so yeah, I get it, and like as much as I try to like lightly push back against that sort of only Disney thing, I can't avoid it because it's what I do basically. So, but in terms of the community, like I've never had an issue or like or a problem or um like I always try to just be super positive. I understand that like the art that I'm making is derivative. Um, I'm not making like highbrow or like brand new art. It's always inspired by something. And it's okay with me, right? Like I know it's not going to be for everyone. But then there's other people doing similar things too, and I think they're doing amazing stuff. I've never had that I know of someone like rip me off. Like that would be total bummer. But like, actually, I have. I've had people do something. I'm just like, that is exactly the same thing I did. And it's like, hey, what's going on here? And it's usually okay. It's only happened like once or twice. But anyways, uh, I wish I was more ingrained in the community, to be honest. Living in Massachusetts, like there's just not a big community of people that are into this. That middle of that Venn diagram is real small, and like people, I will try to vend here, and people will be like, what is this? And it's like, yeah, I understand. Like I don't even bother explaining it. They're like, this is great, but like it's so niche. And I get offers. They're like, oh, do you want to come vend at our market? And I was like, yeah, great. And they're like, it's in California. I was like, of course it's in California. I don't live there. Everyone assumes I live there. So it would be cool to do that and have more like in person community. But right now, all the community that I've created is basically online, and like I connect with other creators and they're doing awesome stuff, and I feel like everyone lifts each other up. I'm always trying to lift up other people that are making awesome art. They share my stuff as well. It's sort of unsung, just kind of do it. Um, and yeah, it's fun. I just try to keep it fun because if it's not fun, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. No, I get
That was
that.
a long-winded
No, no,
answer,
no.
but
I love it. I love it. And my other the other thing just to kind of share because obviously you moved back. So you were in Seattle and now you've
Mhm.
moved back. So now you are back in the East Coast in Massachusetts.
Yes.
Correct? So yeah. So that's one of the reasons why Christopher was mentioning that how he's kind of off. And it's funny because I have good friends and they moved when they moved to Florida, they were from Massachusetts and they were diehard, like they were like Disney Vacation Club members, diehard Disney. He worked at Disney when he moved. Like basically that was the thing. Like they like loved Disney. Now they obviously it's funny because now they live in Seattle. They live in Washington. But still, so I totally get it. And I was just kind of curious because like I see so many. I follow a few brands, a few Disney themed brands that I love I like the owners or I like their story and I like what they're doing. But it's also kind of I can kind of see I can kind of see, and this is why I appreciate about what you're doing. Because some of those, like some of them, because obviously you also do like as a cotton bureau, so you'll make
Mhm.
some shirts, but you do mostly a lot of like stickers and pins, which is great because it's like something easy to do, be able to do, not as
Yep.
much, not as it's a little bit easier than having to make, produce like how I have in the back of me, like
Yeah.
tons of shirts.
Right.
It's a great way, and I also kind of imagine that the reason you appreciate something like a cotton barrel, which we'll have a link to, so if you like any of his designs, you can buy as a shirt, because of what you said, that after 24 hours, maybe you're kind of like, don't want to see it or don't like it. I can probably see that this would probably make just like see stuff that's still on shelves. Not that it doesn't make me irk a little, but it would probably irk you just as much, if not more, because
Yeah.
you're like, I don't even like this design anymore, or something like that. I should have tweaked this,
Yeah, exactly,
that type
exactly.
of thing. So no, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, I mean, direct to garment is, a lot of people have issues with it, and I think understandably it can be not the best quality, but I feel like I've been using Cotton Bureau for a really long time, and they're really good people. And so like I support them as a company, and they've been super supportive of me. They've actually like helped me a ton. So like I also love that it's just like I can make a design. Someone can be like, I want that on a t-shirt because the second you make something, people are like, put it on a t-shirt, and then no one buys it. The cool thing is it takes maybe 5 minutes of my time to put it on a t-shirt. And then if they buy it, great. If they don't, no worries. Like I just made a design. It was the Universal Studios
Yes.
classic logo, and I put it on a t-shirt, and I think I sold two, and I was like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Great. I don't have 10 versions of 8 sizes sitting in my house. It's like I sold two, and that is good.
And I think that as a designer, I think is such a smart way. And a lot of times when I have folks that, because obviously I'm not a designer, I'm a creative and I come up with the idea and I'll doodle, but I work with designers. And one of the big things that I will tell anytime I talk to someone that wants to start a brand or a business, I'm like, go with like exactly what you're doing. Do the pins and the stickers. Go the route of doing kind of like a Printify or Cotton
Yeah.
Bureau or something like that, where you can just throw your art out there. If it does, it sells great. You may obviously, but it's one of those things where you're not having to worry about it. There's very less risk involved.
Hmm.
As opposed to me, obviously, I've been doing this now for a while, so it's kind of hard for me to just switch a button and be like, I'm going to do this. Not to mention the way I wrap and pack everything,
Right. It's
is not
amazing.
it's a different animal that I basically, I've put on myself to do, that I want to be able to give, be able to give my customers. So I totally get that. But I think
That
it's a
was like
smart.
I was one of the best unboxing experiences like I've ever had. Like it brought me so much joy. So Anthony or Biggie, I don't know what you prefer. I'm just gonna call you both.
You can call me
So
Biggie.
Biggie, you sent me the Anna shirt
Yes.
because I love Frozen. Like
Yep.
Frozen, I'm a Frozen stan.
Yep.
And I very unapologetically love both the movies.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And you sent me the Anna's sandwiches one, which is amazing. And just the packaging, I loved it so much. Comes in the bag with the receipt, and then it's wrapped like a hoagie. Like it's awesome. It's so good. It's like
Thanks,
that's
man.
the stuff that I love to do too, right? Like my friends offered to like, she's like, you should open your store again. I'll mail all your stuff for you. I'm like, well, then I don't get to like do a doodle or write a note to people, like that's just kind of what I want to do, and do some kind of interesting packaging and add some stamps and stuff. So
Yeah, no, you do a good job. You do a great job. I appreciate all the swag you sent me back, all the stickers and everything. I absolutely They'll be plastered. I have a few of them already on my table that I do a lot of work on.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so you do a great job, and I love all the different stuff that you've done because you've kind of parodied everything from like old school Burger King, which I love, to to like Barbie, to even Bugs Life, to
Yep, yep.
Pizza Hut. I mean, it's really great because I love it because it's such a great it's a great name. I actually was gonna buy. I was waiting to buy one because when he comes back to the states, my goal is to get him a failed Imagineer shirt so I can give it to my buddy when he comes back stateside so that he can wear. Because I did send him your brand to him, and I was like, dude, how great is this? And he's just like, yeah, that's hilarious. Um, how did you get involved with? I know that you've done some work, and I know a few of my friends that are artists, especially in the when it comes to pop culture stuff. They've gotten involved with like Gallery 1988, which is like a art gallery in California. I know one of
Hmm.
their main areas is Melrose. They're one of the first pop culture focused
Yeah.
art galleries. How did you get involved with them? Because you've done some really cool projects with them. One of my favorites obviously is the product placement, like the Casper and the Abominable Snowman. Like
Oh, nice.
I love all that supermarket
Yeah.
looking stuff. And so you totally crushed it, but you've done some great ones like Wednesday and a bunch of others. How did you get involved with them? How does that relationship start?
Yeah. So, I kind of always had goals for myself when, even when before I was doing the art, I was just kind of like, I told my friend Shannon, she makes this book called Going to Guides. They're books about going to Disney World and Disneyland, just separate books for like each park. And they're amazing books. They're really good for families. My kids love them. We got them before we went to Disneyland the first time, and I was just like, "Oh man!" I remember flipping through the books and seeing the art in the books and being like, "This art is amazing!" Like, I didn't know if she did it herself or she had other artists do it, and I was like, "Man, I'd love to be in one of these books sometime." I feel like sometimes just like manifesting that, saying it out loud, it helps, right? So like this was, I don't know, 13 years ago? No, not that long. It was a long time ago. It was 8 years ago. And so, like, it was a very long time ago. And then, like, last year, she asked me to contribute to her book. And so I know that's not the Gallery 1988 question, but like, that was awesome, right? So I was like, cool. Now I like fulfilled that goal much later, but like, still did it.
Yeah.
Super grateful to her and her books. But same with Gallery 1988. Like, I remember when that came out, I was just like, man, would love to do that sometime. Uh, and to be honest, like I struggle as an artist, as a creative person, with like getting out of my own way, with like depression and anxiety, and like imposter syndrome all the time. It's hard for me to do things sometimes. But Gallery 1988 had an open call for artists, which they haven't done in a very long time. And two of my friends were like, you need to submit for that. I was like, no, they're not going to want me. And they're like, do it now. And so I had a real big push from two friends, Whitney and Brandy, and I appreciate them for pushing me. And I sent them some stuff, and they're just like, here are 8 shows that we think you should be in. And I was like, holy crap, like that's a lot. So for the past 3 years, they've like given me shows. There's some I said no to. I said yes to all of them up front, and I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. That was too much stress to do. Um, and so, yeah, I just emailed them. And so I had a friend reach out to me, and he's like, "How did you get involved?" I was like, "Bro, just send them an email. You're so talented. They'll be stoked to have you." He was like, "Oh, okay." So I just emailed them, and that was it. And now they email me every year, and they're like, "Here's some shows. Here's next year's shows." So I signed up for 5 next year, which is a little less, but I was just like, I gotta chill out a little bit because, like I said, I have a family, full-time job, house. Like, there's too much going on, and
Yeah.
even my therapist says you say yes to too many things and you need to stop saying yes to so many things.
That's
But I do have a special show that is launching on Monday with them. So
Oh,
like
really?
I have all this art that I have and it was just sitting here and I was just like, "Oh, let me ask them if they'd be interested in having it." And so I emailed them and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to do that." So it's kind of a solo show, but not really, kind of. They're just kind of selling it, but I made some art I don't know when this will be posted, but like it's gonna go up on Monday, so I'm really excited. It's like 10 original pieces that I made. And they're
That's
just like, yeah, let's
fantastic,
do it.
man. That's
Just
awesome.
just take the like. It costs nothing to email someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it.
I love
Just do
that.
it.
No, I think that is phenomenal. Can we, since you brought it up, and I basically was gonna, it was one of my next questions actually. So I kind of, it's funny how when we have these conversations, I can sometimes the guest will transition for me. Since it's in the name, failed Imagineer. Can we talk a little bit about failure and you talking about
Yeah,
being in your head and all of that? And I know you've talked about it in other podcasts and other things like that. But and I love the fact because we do get in our heads and sometimes it's a horrible hurdle, and sometimes you need those people like you mentioned, the brandies and the friends that kind of like push you. How do you deal with that self-doubt, and then you know what do you do to kind of get yourself out of it when you have it? Because you can go into those modes where you're like it just becomes like a creativity black hole where you're like, I don't think I can create anything,
yeah,
or think of
yeah.
anything. So I kind of want to have a little conversation about that. Like, how do you deal with that How do you deal with that? And even like, and deal with that when you kind of get into your own head and deal with those things.
Yeah, I think it's the starting for me, which is always the hard part. Like the ideas, while I feel like I don't have as many ideas as I used to. Um, I'll get the idea and then just like actioning on the idea. I put a lot of pressure on myself to like get it done and do it fast. Um, I'm usually upfront if someone asks me for something. I'm like, this is going to take me a while. Just a heads up. And generally, people are cool about it. I don't ask for money up front if someone asks me to do work too, because I'm just like, I don't want to do because it's going to take me months to get this done. And they're like, that's fine. Um, it's all about this cold start for me. It's just really hard. Like I said, I have a full-time job, and I used to be really creative at night, and I'm basically don't have the time anymore to be creative at night. By the time I'm done working, doing the dishes, eating dinner, getting the kids to bed, like it's, after 9, I'm freaking exhausted. And like the idea of sitting down and then like creating something from nothing is basically an insurmountable task. So yeah, so that's hard. But some of the ways I combat it is like I have a therapist. I talk to my therapist once a week, and she's amazing and she helps me a lot. Um, I try to get out of my head and just know that if I just start doing something, like it'll probably happen. Um, I've always sort of like gone right to the iPad, and I think you kind of expect perfection the second you sit down and start to work on something, and that's unreal. Like that, you can't have that. Um, and I always surprise myself that I'm able to like create something or it comes out the way I wanted. So that's great. So like I've started to like sketch more and start there and just be looser and like be okay with being messy, be okay with it taking a long time. I think there's this expectation in this whole sort of like Instagram art community that like art is immediate, art is something that like is bite sized and it takes no time because it takes you 1 second to digest it, and like but it doesn't, it can take you weeks to work on it. I know I have strengths and weaknesses when it comes to like making things, but try to push myself and give myself some grace too, right? Like be like, it's okay if it takes me a long time. It's okay if it totally sucks. I can redo it. Um, I have a good group of friends that I talk to, that like I'll share things with and get feedback on, things like that, right? Like, is this cool? They're like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, great, cool. All right. Just a quick validation is always helpful. Um, things like that. So yeah, failure is intrinsically part of what it is. And it's a big part of like my career, and like my career as an artist, my career as a designer, like my day job, my everything, it's all about how you react to speed bumps basically.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's it's so accurate. When you're kind of dealing with those things and kind of going and the whole idea of the start. I'm kind of you mentioned something when it came to the creative process because I'm usually the tend to be the one that will like sometimes you never know when an idea is going to come. So sometimes, and
Yeah,
obviously there's some ideas that come and it's like a lightning bolt and you're like, I need to do this immediately, or I need to work on this. And I want to fast track this or whatever. And then there's other times where you come up with something and I usually will have like a notebook or have somewhere where I'm like, I'll at least write down the idea or like talk about the idea or do a scratch of an idea. Do you do something like that, or are you the type? Because it sounds like you're the type that you, and that's why I'm kind of curious because like you just said, sometimes it takes a while for it to happen. Is it
yeah,
one of those where you like you're mentally visually visualizing what it is that you're coming up with? Like you may not come up with and say, I don't know, I don't know, let's just say Anna sandwiches or whatever, or Olaf's ice creams or whatever. And you like, oh, this would be really cool to do. Like you don't write down an idea of like, oh, this is what it is. You literally go the route of visualizing it, or how does that usually work? Like what's that creative process before you put Apple Pencil to iPad?
yeah. I don't I don't have a consistent process. I have a lot of notes in various places on the computer, on pieces of paper that I'll like write down to try to remind myself of
Yeah.
like an idea I had. And a lot of times I go back and I look at them and I'm just like,
What?
what is that? Like, I found one the other day and it just said bum, B-U-M and question mark. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, that was an idea I had at some point. I have no idea what that means anymore. So yeah, a lot of times I have a hard time because I'll get an idea and I have to get it out. And like it happened yesterday. I was like, I was getting ready and I was just like, oh, there's this artist, Aaron Craig. He's amazing. He does a lot of pop culture. He's been painting on barf bags from the airplane. And I was just like, that's just like the coolest thing. So the last time I was on the airplane, I grabbed some and I was just like, oh, I could do something like this. That'd be fun. So props to him. But then like yesterday, I was getting ready and I was just like, oh, that'd be so funny to paint that Mickey that I redrew from the have regrets, spare them in Florida like
Yes.
design that I did.
This
I was
one.
like, oh, that'd be so funny to put that on a waist bag. Yeah, exact. So then yesterday morning, I found the bag and I just did it. I had to do it. So
Oh
like
my
I just
gosh.
just drew. So like you can see it says waist on the bag.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was already there, and I just drew it around, and I was like, hell yeah, I had to do it. I had to get it out of my brain. Or I'll see something in the morning and be like, I just have to design this, and it's kind of like a warm up, but also like I do a lot, right? I'll do a lot on the computer. I'll do a lot like physically. Sometimes I'll do it on the iPad. There's really no rhyme or reason. Um, but like, yeah. And then like with the gallery stuff, I kind of have to set my time and know that they're coming because they have deadlines and stuff
Yep.
like that. So I try to write them down and know that what I want to do or like what will happen. So I get an idea and visualize it, and I'll leave myself notes. But yeah, my process is a mess because it's like my process is fitting as much into like the 5 minutes that I have. So like it's like, oh, what can I get down that will help me later? Like, is it starting on the iPad or is it uh, just sketching in my notebook? I a friend reached out and wanted a commission, and I again told him like it's gonna take me a long time. He said I'm in no rush. Great, and so I finally like in between my kids getting ready for school yesterday, I sat down with the notebook and just took a pencil and just roughed out what I wanted. I took a picture, sent it to him. He was like, I'd rather it look more like this. I said, hold on. And I just flipped the page and added what he wanted. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, great. Now we're aligned on what it is. Now I just need to like do the next step. And like, it's probably going to take me a few weeks to get to the next step. But at least I got down and got that first part done.
Yeah, you got the bones in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that's super super important. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the point of just a bum with a question mark, but I usually will write something like I'll write down something to the effect, or I'll do a quick like doodle sketch, or I'll even go. I've been using I have like different places. I usually tend to write on a paper. I literally I'm old school in the sense of like even for like perfect example like me setting up for me to talk to you, like I use like
Yeah.
composition notebooks for it, but like I'll use a Google Keep
Yeah,
sometimes, and
I love
I'll
Google
take a
Keep.
quick picture of something. Like I took a picture of, I think it was like when I was going on Cars Land, there was like a Mater's thing, and it was like the different picture of something, and it was like a sandwiches out of this world, type of thing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that would be kind of a fun thing to do. Which I did do, and I sent you a sticker of it because like no one really knows what the heck it is. It was a Reuben of Stitch. It was one of those designs that I wanted to make into a shirt, and then I was like, well, let's just make it a sticker and see what happens. But no one ever, like the four people that actually understood. Yeah, because I just said it was like sometimes I'll make it a sticker and be like, well, I'll make it a sticker and see if it sells, or if it
Yeah.
does and it has a lot, gets good pop, then I'll go and I'll make it into a shirt or something.
That's the thing that's
You
a bummer is that you used to be able to just post something on the internet and you could kind of judge from the
Yes,
reception it got, but now it's just like you can't do that anymore because
correct.
you just don't know if anyone's even seeing it. And like, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no,
I feel you.
I totally get that. Yeah. So I have a few more and we'll wrap up. My one question I ask everyone is, which you've kind of already kind of brought up with the idea of failure and the thoughts, but still it may be a little different. What advice do you have for someone wanting to start something?
Just do it, right? That was advice that I got from, I've said this like 4,000 times and like everything, right? Like the only way you're gonna do something is just by doing it, right? So like just start it. Uh just like hopefully it's a good idea. Make sure it's a good, unique idea. Uh don't I've talked to people who are just like, "Oh, I want to start making t-shirts." And I was just like, "Well, why do you want to make t-shirts?" Well, that's because I think it would be fun to make t-shirts. But like, okay, but you're not saying what your t-shirts are going to be about or like what's your idea? Like, well, I just want to sell t-shirts. I was like, then maybe you shouldn't. Like make sure you have something to offer, right? Like that's the biggest thing, like go for it if you want to, right? Like go for whatever you want. I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum or tell someone they should or shouldn't do anything, but like overall, just make sure you have something to offer and then just do it. Just try. Uh, there's so many times where I've stopped myself from not doing something. Uh, and then once it becomes a habit, then that's when it will sort of take off. And like also know when to stop. Like know when like, oh, this is not working. Move on.
Yeah, because you mentioned even in your art, like sometimes you'll try a style and try something different, almost like different series is what I would kind of
Yeah,
almost look
yeah,
at it, right? Like you would do different series, and then the other big thing that I appreciate that you kind of do, is that you try to make it limited, so that way it's like, hey, I'm not like once it's gone, it's going to probably be gone. Like I'm not bringing it back. I'm going to do something different.
yeah. And it's not even like that I make it limited so that like it's you have to get it or that drives demand or whatever. It's just because it's like, no, the idea of reprinting things just, I don't know. I just don't want to do it. Like, I
Yeah.
just like, I'd rather do it once, send it out into the world, and then it is a flash in the pan. Well, not, and that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. It was a point of time. It has served its purpose, and now
Yeah.
I move on.
It's ran its course. I'm going to
Exactly,
the next part.
exactly,
I gotcha.
exactly.
Where can people follow you? Where can they buy your stuff and check you out online?
I mostly just use Instagram, which probably is not great. I tried to use the TikToks, but it is confusing to me, and I do not understand it. So I am not on there. Well, I am, but if you find me, I haven't done anything. So I'm mostly just on Instagram. Instagram's the best place at Failed Imagineer. I have a bunch of things to sell that I don't sell, so you can't really buy much other than the t-shirts and stuff on Cotton Bureau right now. But if you reach out to me, I can sell you some stickers on the side. I hope to open my shop again at some point, but I shut that down a while ago because again, like I ended up having to do fulfillment and like packaging and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'd much rather be drawing.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a lot of work.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, cool, 9 o'clock at night now. I have to go pack orders. And while I appreciate the orders and it's amazing, like I said, I do have a day job, so it's not like I'm relying on it. So, uh, but I'll do it at some point because I just keep making, like, I love making stuff.
Yep.
And right now I'm just making stuff and sending it to people, and that's about it.
No, I feel you. I have a full time. As you may know, I have a full time job as well, and so I do. So Deli Fresh Threads basically is like after work, early in the
Yep.
morning, or
Yep.
whenever I have a free time. I'm off on Friday, so pretty much Fridays consumes either a mixture of podcast slash, doing Deli Fresh Threads, packing orders, trying to pack usually, and that's usually the same thing. It's like it's just a balance of figuring out what it is and where. And then at the same time, me prepping, especially now this time of year, me prepping for markets.
Oh, yeah.
So that adds another extra layer to it. It's definitely, I tell people it's definitely something that you have to love and want to do.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then obviously that's, and for me especially, like I don't rely on Deli Fresh Threads. Deli Fresh Threads runs on its own, but it's like, which I appreciate, and I love the fact that it's gotten to that point. But at the same time, like I do it because I love it, and
Right.
so
Right. Exactly.
I totally understand and totally feel what you're saying. And I appreciate the fact also that you're at least kind of almost like what your therapist said, like you say yes all the time. Like you're kind of learning that limitation, like, hey, I don't need to do this right now.
Yep.
Maybe if I could figure out a better solution, maybe your friend will help you with like fulfillment and said, hey, I'll help you do the stickers. If you do that, then it's something that you can definitely do. And then maybe you just create a card stock of doodles, and then she just throws a doodle in an order,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
possibility. But no, man, I totally understand that. I really do appreciate you taking some time to chat with me. I've been following you for a while. I've been a big fan of your stuff for a long time, and it's just kind of it's fun to finally get to spend some quality time, a little bit of quality time with you. Hopefully next time you're in Orlando, even though I don't have a season pass, we can maybe figure out a way of meeting up and eating something. I do have one last question, since obviously
Yes.
I'm all about food. When you did go to the Disney parks, was there something that was a favorite thing that you ate?
Oh, so this is like my Disney hot take is that the food is not I am not good. I am not a big fan of the food at Disney. I
Oh,
mean, number one, like I don't understand how anyone can eat in Orlando. It is too hot to like eat and then go walk like 8 miles. They're just like, oh, let's get like, chili in a bread bowl and then go walk around
in the
Epcot
heat.
in like
Yeah.
4,000 degrees. Like, no, I'm gonna die. So like the most that I just tried to drink as much water as I possibly could, and it still wasn't enough. Um, I'm a big fan of like the snacks. I like the snacks that they have at Disney. Like the churros. I love the churros, but only the churros in Disneyland. The churros in Florida for some reason are worse. I don't
Yeah.
understand why, but like I don't know. So like there's certain places I like to eat and stuff, but honestly, like I'm not one of those people that goes to the park for the food. Um, I don't ever, you know, I love I love the cold brew at Galaxy's Edge. That's like something I'll always go and get. I love coffee. I'm a big coffee person, so uh, like that stuff is good. But yeah, honestly, like it's expensive, the food,
Oh yeah.
and I'm a big person. Going back to where we started, let's go full circle here. You got to be good at the basics, and the cost for me is always representative of how it tastes. So like if you're charging me a lot for food, like it's got to be the best freaking thing I've ever eaten. So like if it's really expensive and it really sucks, it's going to like suck that much more,
Yeah.
right? So I always like add the price to the thing. There's a sandwich place here in Danvers, Massachusetts. They're called Modern Butcher. They're amazing. They make probably the best sandwiches I've ever had. He has a secret sandwich every single day. They're huge. Like you eat. If I eat one for lunch and I somehow make it through the whole sandwich, I don't have to eat dinner. right? Like they're that big, but like they're like 12, $14. And I was like, this is equal to the price and the taste. Like it all is phenomenal. So like, yeah, uh, that was again a long-winded
No,
answer.
I love the answer because I don't. The only thing I ever tell I only tell people to eat two things at Disney World, and that's the hot spicy chicken and waffle sandwich at Sleepy Hollow,
Okay.
because I like the bang for the buck, and it's, it's good. And then the only other thing I tell people to eat is the ice cream cookie sandwich at the ice cream shop, just because it's two humongous Nestle Toll House cookies with
Oh,
your
nice.
favorite scoops of ice cream, and it's so big that yes, you could eat it as a sandwich, but technically you can just kind of open it up and have each one of you could have like a cookie, have a big cookie with some ice cream on it,
There you go.
and eat it that way as well. Even though I will always have first bite will always be sandwich style, because that's what it is. But I do like to be able to share it, and it's a lot easier to do it, consume it that way, and less messy. But yeah, I know I totally get that.
Ice cream's so dangerous in Florida. We just got like ice cream in the Epcot, and they're like, here you go, and then like 4 minutes, 4 seconds later, it's soup.
Yeah, no, yeah, especially the soft serve. Can't
Yeah, exactly. It was just like cool
Yeah, no,
now.
no. Can't hit it. Can't do that. No, trust me. Living in Florida, living in Orlando, I totally understand the heat, understand all of
Yeah.
those things. I will say, and on my last Disney topic of is, I will say I'm very jealous of the fact that Disneyland versus Disney World, Disneyland, I feel like does their, I feel like they have way more flexibility to change things, do things,
Mm,
um, you know, and their experiences are way different. It's almost like more for the locals, and Disney World is more like, no, we can't change, we can't do this. There's more rigidness there,
yeah.
which kills the experience, because there's like things if someone were to say to me, if you would have said to me, it's a small world, and I had never been to Disneyland, and you would have said small world is your favorite ride, I would have been like, you're kidding me. But if and like, because I hated it in Orlando, but then in
Well, it's basically in a
California,
warehouse. I never understood
yeah,
it. Like I remember the first time I went to Small World and Disney World, and I was just like, this is just in a warehouse. Like the Small World at Disneyland is an experience. It's amazing, like the whole
exactly.
facade and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So those are the things to me that I feel like I'm like, man, I'm like, why do I get ripped off on some of these things? Like, why did you get rid of these things to give me other rides? And then I'm like, this stinks, because I'm like, I'm like, something as stupid as in It's a Small World. I'm like, why can't I have the Disney characters in it like California does? Why do you not have incorporate those characters? I'm like, it is so much fun to ride that ride and be able to be like, oh look, there's a, there's Lilo and Stitch, or
Right, right.
there's Anna and Elsa, type of thing.
Yeah.
So no, I totally get it. And yeah, man, that's like the only thing for me that I have a teenage daughter. We enjoy going to the parks. I know for me, like, that was my big inspiration for me. Like, I loved getting the inspiration. I love just taking the moment, since I'm not rushed and I have a pass, to be able to just kind of pick up on the little like the intricacies, kind of like what you said with some of your designs, like people capture or see certain things, like the little details. And I think that comes with what you were also talking about, the fact that you're not being rushed into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're able to then incorporate some details that sometimes you may see. And that's something I have seen on some of these, brands, when you're kind of beat others, when there is a competitive market and you're doing something when it comes to pop culture, you're trying to be first, or trying to be, and sometimes you have to go and you have to rush the creative process in order to get, to get it out in time, and it's like half cooked, it's not fully it's like not fully marinated, not
Yeah.
fully whatever, but you got to get it out, so because I got to do it out weekly, or I got to do this, and it may not hit if you would have just waited a little bit, let it marinate, or maybe kind of come up with like, okay, maybe if I did this tweak, or maybe added these extra details, it would be even more of a solid
Yeah.
idea or design.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was actually talking to my wife about this morning, and like positive intent is like something that I talk about at work a lot, and like I tend to like take a beat and remember that too with just about everything. Like very very common people could have the same idea as you. it's happened before where someone's posted something. I'd be like, oh man, I literally had that written down in my Google Keep, and I'll send them a message like, I'm like, so glad you did this one. I had this idea too, and they're like, oh sorry, and or they'll say like, oh, I'd love to see your take on it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, you're cool if I still do it, and they're like, yes. And I'm like, great. And we talk about it, right? Like, just talk to people. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's human. Like, and if the person's a jerk, then just ignore it and then move on, right? So like, I feel you. And yes, the details are my favorite part. Like, I love that's why I love Disneyland more, because like you can slow down, you can take your time, you can like my kids are like, why are you taking a picture of that weird thing or a trash can or like that like why are you taking a picture of that? What is it? I was like, well, it's look at the shapes, look how they did this, and they're like, oh, okay. So getting my kids to kind of slow down
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try to
Find that hidden Mickey.
exactly, yeah. They're like, what are you doing? Why, oh, Dad's taking a picture of a trash can again. Yep, pretty
Yeah.
much. I love it.
I love it, dude. Really great time. I really appreciate again, Christopher, being on.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you for having me. I remember when I first moved to Seattle, like one of the had your shirt, the pastrami Nick shirt, like
yep, pastrami on rye.
that shirt. Like I saw that and I was like, this is amazing because I was talking to someone about when I moved to Seattle. The lack of sandwiches in Seattle is atrocious.
Yeah.
Like it's like they don't have sub shops.
No.
Like it's not a thing.
Uh-uh.
And then like I remember I saw some guy who was like, "Oh, we're like the Massachusetts grinder truck," and I was just like, "Hell yeah!" And then I went. It was bummer. Like he gave me half a sandwich. I was like, "I paid for a whole sandwich." He's like, "No, we only give half." So I was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life." So like, I hope he doesn't listen to this, but like, I was
He
really
probably doesn't.
disappointed. All right. Anyway,
It's
so
so I got inspired in Seattle because I went to visited Seattle and Portland, and when I visited, that's how I got my Bigfoot subs idea,
yeah, yeah,
because I was like, how is no one how is there not a Bigfoot subs? Like, how is there not like a sub that someone calls it that and then they create their own Seattle version of a sub or sandwich like that?
yeah,
Um, it totally boggled my mind. And so then I got inspired. And that was one of the things like and that's what I love about traveling is being able to go and be like, oh my gosh, like this would be a cool idea to do.
yeah,
Something like that. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where you definitely I love traveling, I love seeing locations and then what they're known for, and trying to then incorporate like how can I incorporate that into something, into a sandwich. Some cities are better than others on trying to do that, and then others are also sometimes it's so specific that you're like, yeah, I don't see that happening. Like I don't see a pit beef Baltimore Orioles shirt being something,
yeah,
that someone would be like, oh my God, I need to get this, make a crap load of them. So,
yeah,
so at the same time, it's like a cost of benefit analysis of what works and what doesn't work, sometimes, but sometimes I just selfishly say, hey, I want to make this and it becomes something. And I'm like, if I'm stuck with it, I'm stuck with it, but I
exactly.
at least want to make it and be able to wear it myself and do something with it.
Yeah, yeah, love it.
No, man. So thank you so much. That's our show for today. Thank you so much for Christopher Michon, of the Failed Imagineer, to be on and being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check out him on Instagram at a failed Imagineer. Definitely, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends. Definitely, neck till if you like my brand, you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads. Obviously, sandwich selfies are always approved and allowed on my feed and my comments and mentions. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.